welcome to Paradelphia Radio. This is Rick Pruitt here once again in my backyard during COVID-19's never-ending quarantine. And we are coming to you this week once again on Toxic Radio. And our producer extraordinaire is with me, Mr. Toxic Mike. Are you there, brother?
Hello. Hi.
Yeah. What are you, actually, Mr. Is that your Mr. Towley impression?
It came off as Mr. Towley. I was trying to do Mrs. Doubtfire, but I failed at that. I do not do impressions very well. Do not ask me to do another one. I will murder it in a very bad fashion.
They're one and the same, Mr. Towley and Mrs. Doubtfire.
They are pretty much the same. They are.
So joining us also this week are the two ladies of Paradelphia, Miss Jean Durkin and Miss Jenna B. Keene.
It's hello. That's what it is.
See, they did it. They could do it.
Well, Jen is way better at impersonations than I am. She could do a great Jack Nicholson.
I don't know who that is.
She's trying to figure out. Oh, please tell me you're kidding. Because the thing is with Jen, you don't know. Like, you honestly don't know. Jack Nicholson was like 45 when she was born. So
Jack Nicholson now or 1984? 84. Meg Ryan. Name that movie quote.
Wait,
Billy
what?
Madison. You're not cool enough. Okay.
She just like had both ends of that conversation going.
She did. That is Jen's day-to-day discussions with herself.
It's so true.
Talk to herself. So, Gene, what's going on with the psychic world over there?
Is it ever going to end, this whole pandemic thing? It's got to end soon,
Gene,
right?
You with us?
Please. You can't hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Well, I saw there. Yeah, you're choppy though.
She's choppy on your end. She's not choppy on this end.
Like the.
Okay.
Yeah, she's choppy to me. I can't. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just saw this week they have apparently they contracted with Pfizer, Pfister, or whatever for like billions of dollars worth of vaccine. Did you see this?
I'll be first in line. I don't care.
COVID's first in line.
COVID is giving me some of my best times right now. I'm good with all this. Just keep it going. I'm making extra money at work because I get the hazard pay. I got extra time to take care of my stuff. If nobody's asking me to go anywhere, I don't have any events to go to. I'm getting stuff done.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have
for any introverts. This is like your universe.
Oh yeah. I mean, come home, work on computers all night, all weekend, and nobody's asking me to go anywhere. There's no events going on, and I'm making extra money. Yeah.
The life of Mike.
See, I think Mike was the one behind the pandemic. We're gonna call it the toxic Mike virus.
Yes,
toxic Mike 19.
I sneezed on a couple of
Mike 19.
I sneezed on some people in line, and boom, done. That's just now we got this. I'm happy with it.
You're all choppy for me right now. So.
Oh Jesus! What did you do, Rick?
Just kick Rick off.
Who knows?
We'll take it over from here.
Who knows?
I like the staying home part, but the energy is killing me.
Mm-hmm.
The energy, the lack of energy,
the high energy, I'm exhausted.
Listen, I got pregnant with a COVID baby, so I can't complain.
You're gonna baby Corona,
a quarantine baby. We did not
baby
practice
Corona.
Social distancing.
See now, if I was John, I'd say you did practice social distancing, and I'm just that big.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So,
did you see the boards they have up in Canada now?
What's this now?
Like for having sex during COVID, they have these boards and they have a hole in them.
Gene, how do you know about this and I don't?
So
that's
talking about Canadian glory holes?
That's what I was gonna say. That's called a glory hole.
I don't know what it's called, but they got these big poster boards. They look like you see at a convention. They're like 6 feet tall, and then they have a hole in it.
Gene's like, I have 3 on order right now.
So there's a lot of things I was expecting with the show tonight. Gene bringing up glory holes was not one of them.
Me Googling I don't know where to go wasn't one of them.
Look at Mike. Mike's on Amazon right now.
COVID sex board. Where is this at?
Canadian Amazon.
Amazon. Instructions on it, everything.
Wow.
You really researched this.
Yeah, I mean,
it was 3:30 in the morning with this energy. I don't know what to do with it. I'm looking at stuff on YouTube and on line, and then I saw that.
I'm not gonna say what I do with that energy, but usually I fall asleep right afterwards.
Ew.
Oh my. Where was I going with this?
Okay. Rick, I didn't take us here. I didn't take us here. Just so you know.
That's you. It usually is you. Yeah. I'm sorry if I'm profusely sweating. It's literally like 150 degrees out here on this porch. It is.
Why
brutal,
don't you go
man.
inside?
Because the bedroom that I normally do the show in, our main bedroom, we're like doing renovations. Not renovations, but we're moving stuff around the house, and there's boxes all over that room. So the bed I normally sit on has boxes all over it. So the last 3 or 4 weeks I've been out here, which last week wasn't bad. It was actually pretty cool out here last week, but today is freaking brutal, man. So anyway, so the show today was going to, and it's still going to be, we're going to do, most of the show is going to be about the 1916 shark attacks down in Manasquan. Or not in Manasquan. Is it Manasquan? Down the shore. I don't know. I have it in the notes. I don't even know my own notes. But anyway, it was down the Jersey Shore back in 1916, and that was the premise for the movie Jaws. That's where that came from. So that was the original intent of the show. However, a couple things happened today that were kind of unexpected throughout the day. The first thing is kind of a quirky thing, and I posted about both of these online today. The first one was that the Seattle NHL team, the hockey team, released a name for their hockey team today, which normally we wouldn't talk about on this show. However, they released the name as the Kraken, which is obviously a cryptozoological creature. Do you know what a Kraken is? We've talked about this a couple times on the show. Anybody?
No.
I've heard the term before.
Loch Ness Monster only on steroids, right?
Not the Loch Ness Monster. Well, it's sort of like it. So the Kraken is basically, did you ever watch Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yes.
The movie Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yep.
Okay. The giant octopus in Pirates of the Caribbean.
I was just about to say that
attacks the ship and brings it down. That's a Kraken.
That on the Big Bang Theory too.
They had it on Big Bang Theory. Okay, I must have missed that episode, but yeah. So that was the first thing, which was kind of cool because you don't. Yeah, that's a Kraken there. If anybody watching on online. So the logo is basically a stylized S, I guess, for Seattle, and it has like a tentacle running up through it. It's pretty cool. So anyway, that was the first thing. It was just kind of a quirky thing. And then there you go. There it is. And then about halfway through the afternoon, I was just flipping through, scrolling through Twitter on my computer, and I come across this article. Well, all of a sudden, everybody was posting about this article in the New York Times. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Well, here in the New York Times, they apparently posted a second article. The first article they posted about 2.5 years ago, the end of 2017, related to UFOs. Now, this is news because, again, this is mainstream. It's New York Times. This is not like some rag sheet, blog or something. So, and you never see this in mainstream media. But that year, at the end of that year, they posted an article where basically they were saying that there was a U.S. Department of Defense program that up until 2012 was funded $22 million a year, which in the grand scheme is not a lot of money for the U.S. budget, military budget, but still $22 million to look into UFOs. So that was the gist of that first article. And that threw like everybody into a tailspin, because just the fact that it was mentioned in the mainstream media was like this big news. So this has been talked about for 2 years now. It was like, everyone refers to this article as kind of this touchstone event in ufology, where basically it's been acknowledged by the mainstream. So today, this afternoon, they released another article, kind of a follow-up to that article, which basically states they double down on that idea. But what they're also stating in this article, and I'm not going to read the whole article, but I'm going to just, in summary, there's 3 main points here. The first thing they talk about is the fact that, unlike what they said 2 years ago, they had not stopped that program in 2012. That program has been and is still funded beyond 2017. So when I read beyond 2017, what I'm reading between the lines is it's still going on. Because they didn't say until such and such a date. They just said after 2017, which to me means it's still going. So it's still happening. And this is interesting because up until that article hit 2 years ago, the last time the U.S. ever actually admitted looking into UFOs was Project Blue Book, which supposedly ended back in like 1969, I believe, something like
Project
that.
Blue Balls?
Not Blue Balls, Blue Book.
It's one of those nights.
Well, then
Project
you said
Blue Balls is a whole other thing.
1969.
Really? She's pregnant, so, the mind is starting to go.
It's been going.
So anyway, that was why. Well, that's the TV show that was made out of the case files. But yeah, Project Blue Book on I think is it A&E History Channel maybe. I don't remember which channel it's on. So anyway, that was supposedly the last time the U.S. government got involved, but apparently that was not true, and that was made public in 2017, and then it was doubled down on today because apparently they're still involved in it. More interesting than that, even in this article, it basically states that the U.S. government has material in their possession that they believe could be off-world, meaning they can't prove or come to any conclusion that it is man-made or made on the Earth with earthbound materials. So that's the second thing. The third point they're making is basically that they have looked into saucer crashes, essentially. They don't mention specific events, but they do talk about vehicle crashes and how the U.S. government has looked into them and is still, as part of this program, looking into this. This is it sounds, and I ran into this online because a lot of people, if you go through Twitter, anybody who's on Twitter knows it's like this big battlefield between people, and everybody wants to shit on everything else, everything everybody says.
Oh yeah, of course.
But when this came out, all these people were, I reading through the comments, people are like, so apparently there was this idea, and I didn't hear this myself, but apparently there was this idea out amongst the paranormal community that this article was going to drop sometime soon, and that this article was going to involve these crazy revelations of like time traveling and all kinds of shit. So when it came out and said what it said, these people that had all these crazy ideas of what was going to be said, oh, that's nothing. That's shit. And they act like it's no big deal. I'm like, dude, like a little perspective. Like, yeah, they didn't talk about crazy shit like time travel, but what they did say is basically the stepping stone for the U.S. government coming out and saying this shit is real. Mm-hmm. We're looking into it. We have these materials. We've investigated these cases. We don't have answers for what these things are. I mean, this is all, it's kind of like saying something without saying it. They didn't come out and go, yeah, here it is. And here's, QZO, the alien from, Riptar 1 or whatever. But they came out and they kind of talked around the subject, and they kind of said everything but, which, I mean, that's pretty freaking huge news. And I just, it baffles me that people just look at this and go, that's no big deal. Because I guess when you live your life in this kind of world where this is like, you've known about this, like this is stuff I've heard. This isn't new. It's not news to me. Like the revelation of what they said wasn't news to me, because I've read a lot worse than that. Like I suspect there's a lot more to it than that. So I'm not sitting here saying, oh wow, I was shocked by this. I wasn't shocked by the news, but the fact that the mainstream is running with this and treating it seriously for the first time like ever, that is shocking.
And the government is admitting it.
And the government's admitting it. Yeah. Now, the government has admitted this before. Like, this isn't the first time this has happened. It's the first time it's been on the mainstream news, but there's been books written where government officials, admirals, people in the Navy, people, like all these people have gone on record in various ways before. But these books are written and they're just dismissed. You know, they don't have, unless you go seeking them out, they're not in your face. Like the New York Times is in your face on the newsstand every morning. You go get your coffee, boom, there it is in your face. These books that were written, while they are legitimate, they weren't in your face like that. So it's kind of a different thing. You know, this is being put right out there where you can see it and everyone can see it. So I just thought that was, you know, really interesting that they went and did that, and they're continuing to do this. And I'm kind of curious to see where it's going to go from here, because
do you think that it has to just do with the times right now? I mean, because we had this whole thing come out during the whole, you know, while we're dealing with COVID and
well, that's not actually true. That came out a couple years ago, but nobody paid attention to it.
Was it that? But it was just recently. Wait. Let me backtrack. The government just started talking about this and admitted that it was a UFO of some kind. Correct? The article and the videos that you're showing there are from the they call it the quote unquote Tic Tac UFO because it looks like a Tic Tac. So the Tic Tac UFO that was captured, the one was in San Diego, or right off of San Diego, the coast of San Diego. The other was off the coast of, I think it was North Carolina, back in like 2014ish, something like that. Okay.
And the other one was on like 2005. Those videos came out about 2 or 3 years ago, and what happened this year, what you're talking about, is the government a couple months ago came out and said, yes, they're legitimate.
Yeah,
because those videos were leaked. Now they are Navy pilots, they are Navy videos, but of course, like with anything else in this type of world, when you're talking about anything paranormal or supernatural or weird, people see something nowadays and go, oh, that's photoshopped. That's not real. Anything you put out there, nothing you put out there is ever believed by anybody until you have like 65 different types of verification. So
and even then, they don't want to believe it.
Right. And so what happened, what you're talking about, Mike, what happened this year was that the Navy literally came out and said, yes, they are real videos. They were leaked. You know, they weren't proud of the fact they were leaked, but they confirmed that they were real videos, so that nobody would think they were manipulated. Okay. So that's what happened.
We have bases there.
What's that?
We have bases there right off the coast of San Diego. You've got a huge naval base plus the military, the Marine base, and then the same thing in the Carolinas right there.
Right. So that's why they were flying out of those areas. And that's a big thing. And they mentioned that in the article today. They talk about how what the government is basically saying. They're trying to kind of try to dance around this, and they're saying, well, we're not saying it's aliens, which I get. They're not going to say that, and they don't know that. They may not be. So what they're saying is, well, we're doing this. We're running this program because we want to make sure that there's no terrestrial agency or country that has technology that so far exceeds us in the U.S. that we can't deal with it. So we're running this program as a fail-safe,
right?
Which might partially be true. But what they're also saying as part of that is that these objects are being seen a lot over military bases and military installations, and believe it or not, nuclear bases and nuclear installations and plants. There's a lot of stories out there of it's crazy, man. If you read some of these stories, like some of this shit that happened years ago, like nuclear codes were literally like running and ready to fire off missiles, and people were freaking out because they didn't do it, or vice versa. Like it would happen and then it would shut down, or the base itself would shut down. Like there's like it was almost like somebody trying to exert their control or prove their control. Like, oh, we can do this. You know, you think you have control of these missiles, but you don't. Not really. We do, or we could. should we want to. So that was a little. Some of these stories.
Tonight is what you're saying.
What's that?
I'm not sleeping again tonight, is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I talk about it all the time. I have a mentor of mine, Gail Thackeray from California. And I sent you a video. She's always talking about UFOs and other planets and all kinds of stuff. And she sent us a video of a UFO out in Nevada that I sent to you. Do you remember that? Somebody, one of her followers saw it, and it was going really fast. And then they had a plane trying to follow it, but the plane couldn't even keep up with it. And it was, do you remember that?
Yeah, right.
That was going over
it happens.
Area.
It happens.
Yeah.
Somebody on our chat here asked about the moon base, or I'm sorry, the moon base, the moon landings, whether they were real or Hollywood. I think we talked about that in one of the episodes. I don't know, it was a long time ago. I'll tell you who to talk about. I'll tell you who to get involved with that is Doug. Doug loves the moon. He's like a werewolf. Loves the moon. Anything having to do with the moon, ask Doug. He'll go into like a 4-hour rant about what happened on the moon. Oh,
we have talked about like the conspiracy of whether or not we landed on the moon. But you know what's crazy is backing up, Rick, you had said about I forget who it was. What is that?
I think that's it. There was an old movie called Capricorn 1 that was basically a movie about us faking a moon landing. I think that's what that's from.
But what's crazy is that, you know, for the government to say we want to make sure that we have the intelligence, or that if it is an alien life form, that they don't have the intelligence that's kind of go above ours. It's sad to say, but I'm pretty sure that if aliens from like another galaxy can get to us, it's pretty safe to say that they're smarter than us, and they've already gotten to us without us knowing what they are. So,
well, that's if they are from another galaxy, or maybe they're just from maybe they're from another dimension.
Watch me right now.
One never knows.
What I've been told, the ones in the other dimension, like those are lifetimes that we choose as well. We don't always choose to come back as humans. You can have a past life regression and find out.
And we choose to haunt ourselves, or
what? Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. And there are
I
many.
Come back as a mermaid.
There are many advantages to.
I think I missed part of that.
No, you didn't. we can choose. There are many times when we didn't actually come back as a human. We decided to reincarnate, but we came back as another creature on another planet because they're so far advanced from us. The lessons are different. Google it.
I want to be a mermaid.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about that. You want to be a mermaid?
Mm-hmm.
So
you and Ariel?
So I can smack someone with my fin right in the crotch.
Because that's a reason to come back. Sure.
I'd start off with Mike just because.
Absolutely. I would too. All right. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take our first break here, and when we come back on the other side, we will get into the story about the Jersey Shore shark attacks that happened a little over 100 years ago. And these attacks basically were the what's the word I'm looking for here? The inspiration for the movie Jaws. So there's going to see a lot of similarities and a lot of common themes when I tell you about this event.
Okay.
All right, Mike, you ready to go?
Yep.
All right, we're back in a few. All right, we're back. All right. So anyway, getting back to what we were talking about before the break. Yeah. So there was it wasn't just that Stephen Spielberg wrote the movie Jaws when he wrote Jaws back in the early 70s. he had inspiration for that, and believe it or not, it came from not too far away from here on the Jersey Shore back in the early 1900s. So none of you guys have heard about these attacks, the shark attacks?
Just the one the other day.
No, not the other day. I'm talking about the ones from 1960.
Yeah, but there was one the other day.
Was there up in Jersey?
Wait, a shark attack?
A shark attacked a dolphin and killed it right in front of all the little kids on the beach.
Well, not a dolphin, a person.
No, I believe it was a dolphin, but yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this was a series of attacks that happened between July 1st and July 12th in 1916. There were 5 people that were actually attacked. 4 of them died. One actually obviously survived. And this all happened, like I said, right nearby here in the shore towns up and down the Jersey coast. The idea that it was a great white shark was made popular, obviously, by the movie Jaws, and it was one of the theories back then. But they also talked about it possibly being a bull shark, and we'll talk about why one or the other theory might be true in a little bit. But when this happened, this created obviously this giant panic, and it wasn't just in the Jersey Shore area that there was this panic. It eventually, after a couple of attacks, became literally nationwide. And if you remember in the movie when they hire Quint to go out there and hunt the shark, there was that meeting they have in the I don't know where it was, the community house or whatever it was. They had the meeting in where they're talking about doing the hunt, and Quint shows up and says, "I'll go kill your shark." This actually happened back in 1916 when all this took place, because you had, again, it was very similar because it was all based on money and potential lack of money. The shore towns back then were, again, just like they are now, they were money-driven enterprises. You didn't have the casinos and all that stuff going on back then, but you did have beaches, and you had beach fees, and you had businesses that were down there by the shore. And obviously, if you have sharks in the area, it's going to affect your business. So part of the panic, I think, was visceral in that I don't want to be eaten. And part of the panic was we don't want to lose all our business and be broke, So these shore towns basically went about their business, and they started doing different things to quote unquote protect the people in the area. Some of the resort towns down there put up what they called netting, which was basically steel nets. They ran these steel nets from the shore out a few hundred yards offshore. And the idea being that obviously that the sharks couldn't break through the nets. The other thing about this, the interesting thing was that this sharks weren't really well known back then. There wasn't a whole lot known about sharks at this time. So what you wound up having was the situation where people were trying to prevent the attacks and trying to be experts on something that they knew very, very little about. Not that we know a ton about it now, but we certainly know more than we did back then. Now I'm trying to scroll through this article here, and my computer is literally taking a shit on me, right?
It's the perfect time right now. This is the perfect time.
Let's try and do this.
Jaws, let me just say, Jaws didn't scare me as much as Deep Blue Sea did.
This is my life, man.
Did you hear me?
We heard you. We're just ignoring.
I saw
so
that.
We need to.
That was one with.
Goodbye.
I'm just playing. Rick,
that was scary there. Goodbye.
Rick, we gotta get you back into the studio where it's just you. We'll quarantine the whole studio just for you, so that you can have the power of all of that technology in one room. But you gotta go.
My computer is literally taking a crap on me. No, I don't here. Hang on. Let me try to do it a different way. There's more than one way to go about this here if my computer decides to cooperate at all.
I don't think I saw Jaws.
So anyway, yes.
I don't remember watching Jaws. Like I've said this before, I do not remember watching Jaws all the way through. I remember scenes, but I think I've seen scenes just through media and through pop culture, but I don't remember ever watching it from the beginning to the end.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I don't.
Are you people
I
kidding
don't
me?
think I did either. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I
How
definitely
did-
saw like the ending when they killed, well, supposedly killed Jaws and
Right.
stuff, but I don't. Think
I remember
actually,
sections.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
when the.
How is it possible you didn't see Jaws?
Cause I'm a
How is this humanly possible?
millennial.
How is it possible?
Look, I'm
But
even
even
stunned, and I
millennials.
haven't seen anything.
I mean,
What'd you say,
Jaws
Chief?
just.
I
She's
said,
even.
I'm even stunned, and I haven't seen anything. Rick names a movie. I'm like, nope. Even I've seen Jaws.
So to me, Jaws wasn't something. I know we're going off of the actual topic, which is the what it was based off of, and the shark in Jersey, but Jaws just never spoke to me, because to me it's like, okay, don't go in the water.
The
Boom,
moral
you're
of the
done.
story, he didn't even need to watch it.
Well,
I was like, all right, don't go in the water. I don't want to watch the movie now.
but it's
You know, but you
well,
see
you
what
can
I'm
say
saying?
that about anything, Mike.
But no, you can't say that. But like
see the movie?
aliens coming down to attack us, to take us somewhere. You can't do anything about. Interdimensional beings, you can't do anything about. Like, there's a lot of things that you talk about in terms of extraterrestrials or paranormal stuff, ghost or Bigfoot or all these things, that it's not really something that you just be like, well, just don't go there.
But
in
most
terms
people
of
do go in the water.
in terms of anything that is living in the ocean, just don't go there.
Yeah, but until
Well,
a tornado comes and sucks the sharks up, and then you can't get away from them. Sharknado. Have you never seen it? They made 5.
So
They didn't live in the pre-Jaws era where everybody went in. I mean, I don't go up past my knees now because of Jaws. But you did before
Well, right,
that.
and that's the idea, is that it created this idea that, like, people didn't even think about sharks before 1975. At least most people. You know, the average person going to the beach, because if you thought about sharks, what you were thinking about was like deep sea. Okay, if you're diving off a boat, deep sea fishing or something, then you're fair game. But swimming a couple hundred yards offshore, or not even that far offshore, a couple 50 yards offshore, whatever, that wasn't ever considered dangerous until this movie. And then all of a sudden people said, oh shit, there were people that wouldn't go in their backyard swimming pool after this movie. It sounds insane.
It is 100% insane. It is crazy. It is lunacy to even think that way. It's lunacy to have that kind of fear off of a movie, and it's lunacy to think that, you know, going into the ocean in terms of that far out and with creatures you don't even know, like, it's beyond my comprehension. Just don't go. You want to go swimming, go in a pool, go in a lake.
Sorry, so I finally got this pulled up here. So we'll go through this real quick. The first attack happened on July 1st down in Beach Haven.
Okay.
All right. It was right off Long Beach Island, Beach Haven. A guy named Charles Van Sant from Philadelphia, 23 years old. He was vacationing there. After dinner, he decided to go for a swim in the ocean. Had his dog, a Chesapeake Bay Retriever, with him. Shortly after he entered the water, he began shouting, and there were people nearby, but they thought he was just calling for the dog. Well, here he was actually being attacked, and he was rescued by a couple of lifeguards, and they pulled him up onto the beach, but his left thigh was literally stripped of flesh, and they took him to the hospital, but he bled to death on the way to the hospital. So that was the first incident, and obviously when that happened, it was concerning, but it was looked at by the mainstream media as an anomaly. Some people didn't believe it was a shark. People thought it was a boat accident, or kind of like in the movie, they thought it was a boat accident. There's a lot of parallels. So the next attack happened at the Manawan Creek. It was near the town of Keyport, and it was probably about 30 miles away. All right, and Manawan, if you've ever been there, is a very small town. Back in 1916, they said it resembled kind of an old Western town. Like, it was just this like one horse, few buildings. There was really nothing there. And it was probably the last place on earth that anybody would worry about a shark attack, if anything. But they had a creek that ran nearby. And at the time, there were a couple little kids that were playing around. This one kid named Lester Stillwell, who was 11, decided to go into the water again with his dog. Dogs always seem to have a part in this. And his friend thought he saw. His friend was on the dock when he was in the water, and he thought he saw what was claimed to be an old black weather-beaten board or a weather-beaten log in the water. Well, it turned out to be the shark.
Oh.
And before his friend Stillwell, this kid Lester Stillwell, could climb out of the water, the shark pulled him underwater. The kid ran to town for help, and a couple of guys came to the creek, dove in. They still couldn't find the kid. And his friend, when they dove back in to help his friend, his friend, a little kid, got bitten by the shark as well. So both kids wound up being bitten. Long story short is Stillwell was found dead, but his friend survived.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm not going to go over every one of these attacks, but there were 5 of these attacks that were like this that happened all up and down the shore from Mattawan down to Beach Haven, which basically, if you're looking at a map, Mattawan is just south of New York City as a crow flies. It's right across the Raritan Bay from New York City. And Beach Haven, obviously, if you go down the shore around here, Beach Haven is somewhere near Ocean City, Sea Isle, that area. So it's a pretty long stretch of beach up and down the coast there. It's pretty much the entire Jersey Shore that was affected by this.
Rick, real fast, you said this was in the 20s?
This was in 1916.
1916?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a theory. I'm just looking it up now, but go ahead.
Oh, gosh.
So,
he's got a theory.
Yeah, Mike has a theory. So the reaction to this, as you can imagine, was brutal. Like people, one attack, they thought, well, it was just an one-off. When you have 5 attacks within 12 days, that's a big deal. And at first, scientists were kind of reluctant to put the blame on a shark. They thought that the way they worded it was by a fish, and they amended that by saying presumably a shark. Like they were kind of hedging their bets. And this guy named James Meehan, who was director of the Philadelphia Aquarium, he tried to de-emphasize the threat of a shark. Again, probably because these businesses were asking him to play it down, kind of like in the movie where the mayor of the town is trying to keep it on the down low. And what he said to it was the Philadelphia Public Ledger, which was a newspaper at the time. He said, despite the death of Charles Van Sant and the report of 2 sharks having been caught in that vicinity, I do not believe there's any reason why people should hesitate to go swimming at the beaches for fear of man-eaters. So he was basically playing, and it's funny, not to draw parallels with today's political world, but it smacks of it. It really does. Like the coronavirus. It's not so bad. It's not so bad. And people just try to play stuff off. This is going on forever with different contexts.
Because the economy rules.
Right. The economy rules. If it's affecting the economy, we're going to ignore it.
Uh-huh.
The national media eventually picked up on this. And the Boston Herald, Chicago Sun-Times, Philadelphia Inquirer, obviously, the Washington Post, San Francisco Chronicle, all ran front page stories on these shark attacks. The New York Times headline, sharks kill bathers off Jersey Beach. It was this giant growing panic. And the resort owners estimated they were going to lose about $250,000, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in these times back in 1916, it equated to almost $6 million in today's money.
Wow.
In tourism. Sunbathing declined by 75% in a lot of areas.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, you're losing tons of people. So then you started having these people going out hunting these sharks. These hunting parties went out. Shark sightings up and down the East Coast were all over the newspapers. Motorboat patrols up and down Spring Creek, which was the waterway where the 2 kids were killed. So kind of, again, I keep referring to the movie, but it really is. If you remember the scene in the movie, Gene, since you're the only one that saw the movie, where the boaters are going out to hunt the shark, and they all have like rifles and dynamite in their boats, and what's his name? Shit, I forget his name. The guy who was the police captain.
Brody.
I'm blanking. Brody says they're going to kill themselves. They're idiots. Like, and they were like, that's kind of what it reminds me of. Like, this actually happened. Again, so much of this stuff from 1916 was put into that movie. It was really a direct parallel, where you had all these people going out, these crazy people that were just going to go out there and they were going to shoot the shark, or they're going to blow it up with dynamite. They're going to, whatever.
I'm going to have to check out this
so
movie.
You wound up.
What's it called again? I've never heard of it.
Oh my God, these people are nuts. So anyway, the locals, again, they made efforts to try and save the economy. Steel wire mesh fences were put up. The motorboat patrols, and that's the other thing. They were patrolling these beach areas with motorboats and shotguns. So think about that for a second. You're going to go out there. You're going to swim in the ocean, and while you're swimming in the ocean, you're worried about sharks first off, but you're also worried about Jessup, who's probably high on hooch, carrying a loaded shotgun, riding in a motorboat with a propeller that's going, it's
into dynamite.
With dynamite, right? Like, the shark was the least thing you had to worry about at this point, like these freaking idiots that were going out there to attack the shark. So anyway, you had all this going on, and eventually they wound up catching what they thought was the shark, because after they caught this particular shark, I think it was, excuse me, up in North Jersey, the attack stopped. It was a couple of days after. I think the last attack was on the 14th of July or 12th of July, and they caught the shark on the 14th. So the idea was that, this was the shark. Whether it actually was the shark, I mean, who knows, but that was the going theory.
But didn't they make like 8 Jaws after that?
They made 4, of which 1 is any good.
So that actually happened in the movie too. So basically, Stephen Spielberg took this story and made a movie out of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This movie, or that movie, came directly from this event, not moment for moment, but the bigger pieces of the event were put into the movie. Yeah, absolutely. And so you had this situation where these people they didn't know what they were going after, because they didn't know much about sharks back then. They were denying. You had half of the people, and again, it reminds me of today's coronavirus crap. Half the people were denying the shark existed. The other half didn't believe it was a shark. Whatever. You had all these people.
All species.
Yeah.
It's a government conspiracy. It's not a shark.
And you had people out there who were saying that sharks couldn't bite through human legs, like human bones. Like, this was actually scientists were going around saying that, oh no, their bite wouldn't go through your leg. Like, they were thinking this was true. Like, they had absolutely no idea what they were dealing with. And
in 1916, they would say, #I researched it. I got you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks,
Again,
Obama.
Reminds me an awful lot of what I'm saying now.
Wow.
And the federal government got involved. The White House put out a statement about it at one point. The Congress put out statements and I think sent funding down to the Jersey Shore to offset the lost tourism. Like, it was a giant big deal.
Do they have? Because I'm really intrigued by this and interested by this. I kind of want to watch some kind of documentary or some time. No, Mike, they have this movie. It's called Jaws.
You might have heard
go watch it right now.
You might have heard it.
I would like to watch Jaws, but with the prerequisite of watching some kind of, special or documentary or something on all of this, like any kind of articles they have, any kind of footage, any kind of pictures, and the stories told by either people that are kids of parents that were alive during that time or something. Like, I would love to hear more about this, especially since it's Jersey history. That intrigues me also, like more so being from Jersey my whole life. I'm really intrigued.
Next week.
What's that?
What you say?
I'm going whale watching next week.
Okay.
And I've been a couple of times. It's really great.
Right.
But I can't believe that this story never came up on any of those whale watching trips.
Well, why would they say that? You're in a boat in the middle of the Atlantic. By the way, in 1916, there was people being eaten.
Just
if you look off to the side of the boat, that's where one person got eaten.
Right.
I guess.
R.I.P.
Like, hey.
All right, so because my computer has once again decided to just sit there and spin the wheel and just buffer, I can't move anything. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take another quick break here? I'm going to shut down and try and reboot the computer and come back and try and finish this on the flip side, hopefully, if my computer decides to cooperate. Sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, man. All right, back in a few. All right, we are back here on Paradelphia, and hopefully I have my computer problems fixed here. I don't know what was holding up everything, but
is that why it's happening?
I have no idea. This has just been awful tonight. I don't know what's up with the my internet connection tonight. So anyway, we're gonna wrap this up here, but I just wanted to go over a couple. It was just because it's funny. Like I said, people didn't understand what was going on with this shark attack stuff, and they started coming out with these crazy theories as to what was happening. Because again, nobody wanted to admit it was a shark. So after the second incident, scientists and some people in the public, it started to waver on believing that it was something else. They kind of started, the common sense started to speak to the fact that it was a shark, but not everybody. Some people were talking about this being German U-boats from the First World War, because that was going on at the time. The World War was going on over in Europe. So people had this crazy idea that either the U-boats themselves had attacked these people, or it was a shark, but it was a shark because the U-boats were pushing the sharks towards shore because they were all coming toward the American coastline. So that was a theory that was thrown out there.
Something I would go with.
Yeah. So on July 14th, this taxidermist, and he was actually also a Barnum and Bailey lion tamer. This guy named Michael Slizer. He caught this shark. The one I was telling you about earlier, this 325-pound, it was about a 7.5-foot shark up near Raritan Bay. And the shark nearly sank the boat before it was pulled on, and he caught it. When this shark's belly was opened, they removed, quote unquote, suspicious fleshy material and bones. And it took, the bones took up about 2/3, bones and material took up about 2/3 of a milk crate and weighed about 15 pounds. So you had 15 pounds worth of people gut.
Jesus.
And it was eventually determined that it was human remains.
Wow.
So two things. Number one, you had human remains in this shark's belly. And number two, after they caught this shark, the attack stopped. So was this the shark? Maybe. It's probably a decent chance, but you don't know for sure. But that was when it all kind of ended, and people kind of went back to normal. But obviously, the rest of that summer, it was still kind of iffy. People were still shell shocked about going into the water after having all this happen.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So basically, that was the story. And it goes into a lot of different details that I'm not going to have time to dig into right now, but you can read all about it. Mike, you asked about where you can find information about this, and at the end of this article, it actually talks about. No, I saw this somewhere. 1916 fatal shark attacks are a subject of 3 studies. In Search of Jersey Maneater, written in 1987, 12 Days of Terror, written in 2001, and Close to Shore, also written in 2001. These are 3 books.
Oh, they got 3 books. They should make a movie about that.
Well, there's also a let's see, In Search of History on the History Channel did a documentary called Shark Attack 1916.
Really? I'm writing that down.
Discovery Channel has one too called Blood in the Water.
Shark Week's coming up in August.
Shark Week's happening right now on Nat Geo. You see that? Oh. Nat Geo is doing their own version of Shark Week this year.
Yeah, Shark Week's I think usually in August, but I'm sure they'll talk about Jaws or something.
Oh, I'm sure.
Awesome.
I'm sure, but yeah, it's very interesting. And the thing I find most interesting is like we're talking about the parallels between what happened and the movie, Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
So, so you can look it up. You thought that was what?
I thought Jaws was complete fiction till tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is really, really. I'm literally one of the most interesting. In terms of the show teaching me something I didn't already know. This is really freaking cool. I mean, we did have who was it? Armstrong the other week interview, but I mean, who needs that interview? We're finding out that Jaws was in Jersey.
We should interview a shark.
Right, baby.
I'm taking a new class on how to talk to animals.
I used to have. Right, I tell Taryn about this all the time. My favorite. That wasn't really a toy. It was a record. And Gene, you're the only one old enough to remember these. You might have had one like this, but it was a record that was about Jaws. Like it was a parody of Jaws. And what it was this record where these actors did this parody where this reporter was on the beach and he was talking to people about the shark, and then he talked to the shark. But when the people would talk, when he would ask a question, the answers were always clips of songs that like related to the answers, and they were all like these 1970s songs that were like popular at the time. It was my favorite. I played this thing nonstop when I was a kid. It was hysterical. I wish I still had it today. But yeah, that was my Jaws, and I had the game Jaws. You ever see the game Jaws? We had to take the stuff out of the shark's mouth.
I was traumatized for a really long time.
It was a big deal. Like that was a huge, huge deal because after Jaws, if you think about it, you had all these movies that were like offshoots of Jaws.
Yeah.
Not just Jaws franchise. You had Orca was the killer whale. Yeah. And you had like all these killer animal movies that came out like in the late 70s after Jaws. It was like a thing that was spawned by that movie.
And it was so.
And if you watch
the movie was directed and the way they did it, it was so terrifying. It was the first of its kind, so it was like you were right there. I don't think I've ever seen it since.
That was a mistake. Have you ever seen anything on the making of Jaws? There's a documentary out. It's really interesting. Universal. It's really interesting. It's a documentary on the making of it, and Stephen Spielberg talks about how the fact that and everyone always credits him with saying, well, you didn't show the shark, and that made it even more terrifying because you didn't see the shark until the very end. So people kind of made it worse in their own mind than it really was. Like whenever you don't show the monster, people think of whatever scares them. It's like a psychological thing. But he didn't do that purposely. They had a shark. They had a mechanical shark that didn't work.
Right.
It didn't work properly. So because that shark didn't work properly, they couldn't use it in all these different scenes. And so he basically made the music that that music that like preluded the shark attack. He made that stand in for the shark. And it was genius, but it wasn't intended. That wasn't the way it was supposed to go. But he kind of like half-assed stumbled into this like genius idea. So it's really interesting.
I took Faith Elizabeth to Universal when I had to go out to California for my thing with James. And we did the tour. Yeah. And they put up a video. And he was talking about that. He's like, they tested this shark under you name it. It worked fine every time. It was good to go. They never tested it in the water.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
If you could see
was it in the water? Or was it
that video?
Was it salt water or water?
Water. They never
Just
tested
water?
it in the water. So they put it in the water and it broke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what made the movie.
Yeah.
That's what made the movie. Yeah, you guys, the two of you nitwits got to start watching these movies.
Yeah, you have to.
How could you not have seen Jaws?
I promise.
Ridiculous.
I will watch it.
On a
I'm
big
ashamed of you.
screen. Not that little computer thing you got. You got to watch it like.
Did you see where they're trying to do this thing in Philly where they play it, where they have people boating in the Schuylkill?
Oh, that's great.
Did you see that?
What?
There's gonna be like a big screen on land, like a movie, like a drive-in theater, but instead of cars, they're gonna have people on little boats in the Schuylkill.
I like it.
Really?
I like it.
And they're playing.
I'll
Jaws.
watch it on the big screen in my VR headset. That's all I got there.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Do they have? I don't know if they have VR for that movie, but they might.
No, they do. Yeah. Well, if they don't, I can rent it on my computer. I patch it over to my headset. I put it on the big screen in the theater. Sit on my couch, and it's like I'm in a giant theater of my own.
Whatever, fancy, whatever.
Mike lives in his own world now. He lives in his own little world.
I'm a fancy man, and I deserve fancy things.
His VR world. All right. Well, that's all I have for you. So it was interesting.
I had no idea.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was interesting. So that on top of the UFO disclosure stuff, I'm sure there'll be more coming down the pike about that
Fun fact,
in the near future. What's that?
The fun fact is the very first person thing or whatever that Barry Strom from last week talked to was an alien. His first communications before he started with the ghosts in the antique shop and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he
Moo,
said
right?
his name. Didn't he say his name? It was like
Yeah.
What was it?
What
was it?
It was Moo. He had a
Moo.
Moo the guard or something like that, but he called him Moo.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. And next week, you guys are all in on this. Next week, we're going to do. The topic is going to be remote viewing, and we're not just going to talk about remote viewing. We're actually going to make us part of the interactive discussion because each one of us, including my wife, is going to do a online remote viewing test, and we're going to record our answers. And then at the end of the show next week, we're going to talk about how we all did on our remote viewing tests. So we'll see how this turns out.
I love it.
Something different.
I
Something
got my
different.
red light bulbs, Rick.
You got what?
So I got my red light bulbs. I'm doing an experiment. My girlfriend did it, and it came out really cool.
Oh.
I'm going to meditate in the closet. I'm going to do a trance meditation.
Is that what it's called now?
And then I'm going to take the pictures and see if I can get my actual guides or whoever's coming in. Because she can actually take pictures of them. Although you've met me in a camera or a piece of tech equipment, so there's a possibility that might be a problem.
Do you have these pictures that she took?
I don't know.
See if you can get pictures. I mean, try and get them yourself, but see if you can get her pictures too. I'd be curious to see them.
I can contact her and get her pictures, but when they closed our Facebook page, I think they merged our pages, so I think that all got deleted. But I'll look and see, and if not, I'll text her. It's really cool.
Okay.
So I'm gonna see if I can do it. How sad is it? I'm worried more about taking a picture on an iPhone than I am about actually getting spirit.
Jean's gonna be texting me and be like, "How do I take a picture on an iPhone? I don't know."
You are a hot mess. All right. So that's going to be the episode for the night, and we will come back, like I said, next week, and we'll do our little remote viewing test, and we'll find out who did what and who's psychic, I guess. Well,
watch me fail.
Who other? Now I'm curious to see. I am curious to see how we compare to you because you obviously have an advantage here, I guess.
Here's the thing. I only do remote viewing when I'm working on a missing persons case. And I hate those cases. So
So you're trying to say you're even keel with us then?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm a newbie.
All right. All right. So we're gonna wrap it up here. So for Gene, for gonna be Toxic Mike, I'm Rick. For Paradelphia, we are out of here.